Well, hello everybody. Welcome to a Jacob's Quarantine Rant. I'm your host, Jacob Shaw, and I'm just in the car doing some errands, picking up some groceries. We got low on the essentials, so had to face the world, but that's okay. Even though we're in isolation and practicing social distancing, still good sometimes just to get out into the world and, see people even from a distance, remind yourself that you're not alone and that we live in God's world that is still thriving and alive. So let's keep up that good faith. But today I want to talk to you a little bit about the best of us. Now, I don't know if you remember 9/11. That happened back in 2001, September 11th, 2001. And I was in grade 7 or 8 at the time. So a long, long time ago. And it kind of made the Western world, Canada, United States, some of Europe kind of stand still for a moment because, we have all heard about war before and acts of terrorism, but suddenly it was on our doorsteps and in such a large manner, such a large scale attack. And it just caused everybody to go into mourning, sadness, panic, fear, frustration, and it was quite intense. But in the midst of that darkness, something really cool happened where you started seeing the goodness of people being played out. People were trying to do what they could to help in any way they seem fit, and particularly for New York City, where the World Trade Centers had gone down. If you ever get a chance to go visit New York, they still have monuments and shrines and historical pieces that show how many people just stopped everything they were doing and just helped out, and what a really cool thing that is. It's a little stormy out right now, so the wind might be a little strong, so I apologize for that. I'll try to edit that out later. Now, that got me thinking about what I'm seeing today with the quarantine, with the coronavirus. Everybody's being self-isolated. Essential services are the only people who are supposed to be working. You're only supposed to go out to get basic essentials. Anything that isn't necessary, you stay at home. And that's created this really interesting dynamic in the world. Some people are really panicked about it. Some people are just kind of chilling and enjoying it. You get the wide spectrum. But what we're noticing is the same thing we noticed with 9/11. There are helpers out there that are trying to do everything they can to provide. I saw a program on the news about a fellow who he had a company. I think they did some sports gear or something like that. They're not a huge company, but they set a goal to make, I think it was 1 million face masks to help support the coronavirus, and they're trying to do it as cheaply as possible so they can get it out there with very little overhead, very little cost for the company, and essentially as minimal or as little as cost for when they distribute them. So it's really neat to see that people are making those efforts to do those kind of things. And I think that shows something in us, even when there's I think what I'm trying to say, when there's moments of sheer darkness, it makes the lights in people's hearts and in their actions easier to see sometimes, and we can see the goodness of God playing out in humanity. Now, I think the trouble thing is that often we wait until big bad things happen for us to step up to the game. Or not so much waiting for bad things to happen, but waiting for bad things to happen to us. Now, early on in the coronavirus news, I made a post online that said, I really wish I saw people stepping up to do this level of awareness and action in regards to the 9 million people who die every year from starvation. The reason why we don't see the world standing still to deal with the starvation of the people around the world is because it's not on our doorstep. Sure, there's a few maybe homeless people or people in their houses that are going low on food or are maybe literally starving to death, but the numbers aren't astronomical, and it can't just spread to you like a virus can. You're not just going to suddenly catch starvation, right? So it's not on your doorstep as much as something like this, or there's a potential for it to be right in your house, like the coronavirus. So people just don't care. And I think that fear for the self, or the fear for your family, the fear for your neighbors, your community, clicks on that urgency of light. We need some light, so I'm going to step up. But when there's a little bit of distance to it, we don't kind don't step up to the challenge nearly as good as we could. There are war, there's famine, there's disease, there is human trafficking, there's drug issues, there's crime, there's so many things around the world that we should be stepping up to the challenge as Christians and as nations and saying we are going to put an end to this. As a global human family, we should have stopped a lot of the stuff decades ago, hundreds of years ago even. We should have put an end to it, but we don't because it's at an arm's reach. So I want you to take the opportunity to think about the goodness you're seeing within the darkness of the coronavirus, and how can we carry that goodness forward? How can we utilize that every day instead of waiting for an apocalypse to hit us? Why do we wait for the end of times or this big threat or something dark and scary to step up and live to the challenge that God calls us to do? Why do we wait for goodness to appear once darkness is taken over? We do not need to do that. Christ has already conquered that sin, death, and the devil in his time on the cross, so we can now enact that kingdom of God into this world today. That means every day we should be working towards healing, prosperity, not just surviving, but thriving. We can do that. And that does not mean making a lot of change or cheddar for your pocket, but it means sharing, caring, living out that love, living out that care, living out that compassion every single day for every single issue that we encounter. That's how we will make a difference, and that's how we will go from just people who react in times of darkness to having a society that is ready for whatever the darkness can throw at us. Well, that's my little rant for today. Take care, God bless, and we will see you soon.